Australia voted but couldn't choose, resulting in the country's first hung parliament in 70 years. Will Labour hang on or be unseated by the Liberal National Coalition? Well, let's ask our next guest. He's James Shugg, Chief Economist at Westpac Banking and a Bloomberg Best for accuracy of Labour forecasts. Thanks so much for coming in to speak to us. Good to see you again. So, first of all, take us through the significance of this election outcome for the economy, an election which has resulted in the first hung parliament in 70 years.
That's right. I mean, for the economy, it's not actually that clear what the full implications are because we don't know what the makeup of the new government is going to be. I mean, the various independents that will have the balance of power have some pet schemes. One's really keen on emissions trading, another one's a real protectionist, and another one wants to go down the broadband path. Australia has really bad internet connections, and there's needed to be a significant multi-billion dollar investment in broadband, which the coalition doesn't really, the opposition, current opposition, doesn't really want to go down that path. So there's going to be a lot of significant horse trading on policies between these three independents and the two incumbent, the two major parties, before we know who really is going to actually govern. So I can't really tell you what the impact on the economy is ultimately going to be, because we don't know what policies will be horse traded.
Absolutely, but many analysts saying that a hung parliament was potentially the worst possible outcome for markets, for investors.
I think so, and unlike in the UK, where a hung parliament meant just various parties had to get together, in Australia it's three independents. Now they've got a conservative background, but a conservative background for a reason. Most of them hate the Conservative parties, which is why they left them. So at this stage, it really is unclear how it's going to go. Now, the convention is that the current Prime Minister, Julia Gillard, will be asked to form a government or to demonstrate she can, if she can get the support of those independents. The Greens will support her. That's already pretty much decided. So it really does boil down to these three guys. One of them wears a hat and has a bit of straw hanging out of his mouth. You know, he's a real rural sort of guy. And the other,
he's not afraid to show it.
And that's right. And he's very outspoken. And he's the protectionist sort of guy.
Okay.
You know, and that's not the way that Australia really wants to go.
And of course, James, off the back of this election, as you would expect, mining companies really coming into focus this morning. Could the Labour Party moderate its position on the 30% tax on iron ore and coal producers to win support from the independents?
At this stage, well, everything's on the table. Yeah. That's the point. I can't give you these sorts of answers. We know that both Gillard, the current Prime Minister, and Abbott, the wannabe Prime Minister, are in negotiation with these guys, but the actual detail of these conversations just isn't clear yet. What I would want to say, though, is that the Greens, their vote, 14% I think in the upper house, 12% in the lower house, they are now a significant force in Australian politics. They're not just a fringe player, and they demonstrate that Australians want a green agenda. So whatever party actually does ultimately form the government is going to have to,
compromise
be very aware of those sorts of green issues going forward. And the Greens will have the balance of power in the Senate. So it's going to be both houses, the lower house and the upper house. The government will not have a majority in either. The ultimate government will not have a majority in either. So the Greens, the kingmakers in all of this potentially. The Greens are the kingmakers are still the three independents, because it's the lower house that determines who becomes the Prime Minister and which party governs. But it's the upper house that actually says yea or nay to legislation, and the Greens will have the balance there.
And what about this perception of political risk in Australia because of the uncertain outcome of the election? Will that deter foreign investors? Has that created much nervousness, in your opinion?
I don't think so. I think it's too early to say at this stage. Let's wait and see what actual outcome does come through. The fact that the Greens are on the ascendancy, that might worry some investors on the mining side of things. But
so they could be bad for the mining companies?
Well, I don't want to say it could be bad. I'm just saying there might be some nervousness on the part of mining investors that the Greens have done so well. That may or may not be justified. To keep their position in the next election, they can't go all radical and do all sorts of crazy things. But they do need to be recognised that there's a definite growing green support in Australia, and that's something that investors in mining and other types.
How that's going to play out, how that's going to impact on the mining companies. James Shugg, thanks very much.